Thank you very much. I suppose I better start by saying I'm speaking in a personal capacity. It can be quite lonely at times. Well, it's nice to be here. Some friendly faces. When I go into a Guardian editorial conference, it's a bit like being one of those rare birds that sometimes turns up on Britain's shores and you get sort of twitchers looking at you as the lesser spotted Guardian Brexit supporter. Don't see many of them around. So lots has been said, really. I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting is that if this meeting had been held, if the referendum had been held 4 or 5 years ago, then on the panel it would almost certainly have been Jeremy Corbyn or John McDonnell, because most of their life has been spent attacking the things that we're attacking tonight. I mean, they voted to come out in '75. They supported the Labour Party manifesto that was proposed coming out of the European community as it was in 1983. They opposed Maastricht Treaty, single currency, Lisbon Treaty. I mean, they've been pretty steadfast and pretty right all along. You know, they've been absolutely on the money. As Lindsay said, this was a referendum that wasn't supposed to happen. It was done entirely for internal party reasons for the Tory party, for David Cameron. And it really let the cat out of the bag, didn't it? I mean, there was a referendum that wasn't supposed to happen. When it was called, they thought they would win it. You know, they thought they'd tried Project Fear in Scotland, it worked there. Tried Project Fear in the 2015 general election, it worked there. They thought another dose of Project Fear was going to work in 2016 with the referendum. And it didn't work because, you know, what they were saying to people was, your life is going to be really, really crap if we leave the European Union. Strangely, quite a lot of people said, you know what, our life is pretty crap as it is. And so faced with this revolt, really, and it wasn't a revolt, people didn't know what they were doing, it was too stupid. People did know what they were doing. They were actually saying, we're unhappy with this, we've had enough. And this was almost delayed reaction to what happened in 2008 and 2009 in the financial crisis, because that should have been the occasion for really radical change, a real attack on the fundamentals of capitalism and a different way of doing things. And it didn't happen. In fact, we had a sort of a move to much more right-wing neoliberal politics, and now we've got a second attempt to put it right. And if we blow this attempt, then I don't think history will ever forgive us, because this is a second opportunity to put right what should have been put right a decade ago. So for me, Brexit is not some sort of nativist, backward-looking movement. It's a very, very progressive moment. It's a time when you can say, look, this is really, really not working properly. We can do better. And in fact, you know, what I find kind of strange amongst some people on the left is that they can see the need for radical policies almost everywhere. They support a lot of what Jeremy Corbyn is standing for. But their radicalism ends with the European Union. And as I think Lindsay said, you know, people have a rather sort of misguided view about what's really happening in the European Union, because almost everything that Tony Benn, Graham, Michael Foot, Barbara Castle were talking about 40 years ago, people were talking about when Britain was having a debate about joining the single currency, almost everything that was said then has come true. We said Europe would be a low-growth economy. It's a low-growth economy. We said Europe would be a high unemployment economy. It's a high unemployment economy. We said Europe would be run along very austere lines with budgetary constraints on governments who did dare to step out of line. We live in very much that society, as you know, we've heard. The Stability and Growth Pact prevents governments from actually doing anything that's not in the neoliberal rulebook. We said that Europe would run along monetary lines. It is. It's run by an unaccountable central bank. So everything that was said about Europe has come true. And as Europe has become, the attempt to make Europe more integrated has gathered pace, the worse it's done. That is the reality of modern Europe, is that it's a real economic disaster zone. So, and Britain Britain's economy has also been pulled out of shape by it, because essentially the idea is to create one European market akin to the US, with specialisation across the European Union. So the Germans will do the manufacturing, the French will do the food and drink, the Italians will do the designer clothes, the Norwegians, the Scandinavians will do the mobile phones, and what are we left with? We're left with doing the money. The City of London has become the one part of the European market that actually delivers anything that approaches a growing sector. But beyond that, beyond the City of London and the finance sector, the economy has essentially been turned into a service sector and a servant-led economy. And that's why it's important that we leave, so that we can actually come up with some different, more radical ways of running the economy, that we can build up a new manufacturing base, that we can actually spread prosperity from one tiny part of the economy to other parts of the economy, to other regions of the economy, so that we can actually have state ownership of our railways and public services, that we can use procurement policies, that we can use the whole range of economic weapons that are available to governments to actually reboot, retool, rethink the economy. Where Labour has got to be careful is it doesn't get sucked into the idea that all you really need to do is have frictionless markets, because what progressives have been doing for the last 150 years is try to put friction into markets. If the only people who really support frictionless markets are neoliberals, because friction to them means trade unions, it means minimum wages, it means controls on capital. So I'm actually in favour of more friction, not less. So Labour. We need to recognise that trying to reform the European Union from inside, hoping for reform and remain, that really is, we're going to be waiting for a very, very long time. Like Lindsay, I voted in the 1975 referendum and voted to leave. And I think we would wait for another 43 years before we got any change in the European Union. The only way that the European Union is going to change is if the major projects collapse, if the euro collapses, which I suppose is there's more chance of change coming because of the collapse of their two big projects, Schengen and the euro, than there is of actually them saying, this is not working, we need to actually listen to the people, because that really, really is not happening. So let me just finally say, wind up. The reason that we're progressives, the reason we're socialists, is because we have an optimistic view of the world. We think that things can be done better than they currently are. And if you look at what's happening in the European Union, and you look at what's happening in the UK, you have to say to yourself, we can do one a heck of a lot better than this. Thank you very much.